It is a hurricane now. It is a Category 1. So if nothing, the forecast has verified, okay? But it is big because it means that we're seeing things come into focus. We want to bring back in Fox Weather hurricane specialist Bryan Norcross. So let's head this way. Pivot with me. Pivot with me. All right. This is live TV for you. Move around. Bryan, we've been talking about Erin since last Friday. However, at that point, it was a tropical wave. But anytime you get something pushing through the main development region, it just is a slow process. But to see it officially now, a hurricane, it is notable. The hurricane hunters have been out there investigating and verifying this forecast.
Yeah, and the things that we talked about all this week have indeed come to pass. All that dust that was around it is still around it, but the hurricane itself is making moistening the atmosphere, pushing out the dust, and we can see it right before our eyes. It's kind of nice when that happens. And all the other news is basically good with the storm. It is going to affect the islands. It is going to affect the Bahamas and the east coast of the U.S., but no direct hits. This is going to pass. We have high confidence this is going to pass north of the land areas and east of the U.S. East Coast and probably west of Bermuda, although in Bermuda they're going to have to watch it, and then we'll talk about all the effects all the way around. 75-mile-an-hour hurricane. Hurricane hunters out there investigating, and a lot of work done by NOAA as well to measure the environment. West-northwest at 18 miles an hour. That's kind of a standard movement for storms in this part of the Atlantic this time of year, and the pressure down, measured by hurricane hunters, down to 996. Actually, a NOAA research aircraft was out there measuring. There you see the core, and we can see those dark colors on the way the computer displays, I can think of the word, displays the colder clouds of the tall thunderstorms there. So that's the core developing. It's not complete, but there is actually an eye wall developing there as well, according to the plane in the system. There you see Category 1 hurricane there, just at 11 o'clock Eastern time, and we can see the clouds kind of wrapping around. But we also see, look at this kind of dark area wrapping in there. There's still some dry air out there that's slowing it down a little bit, but as we've seen, the system itself is moistening the area. There you see, look at this, the hurricane now has made this moist path, but there is one little tentacle there of dust wrapping around into it, and that's just slowing it down a little bit. The hurricane will mix all that out, and the dust is not going to be an issue once we get to this weekend and the system is over here north of Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands. All right, let's look at the water temperatures, and here you can see probably as responsible for anything for the moistening of the atmosphere. Once the storm gets over warmer water, there is more moisture above the water, more moisture to pull up into the atmosphere and to push off the dust. And what you see here is even warmer water temperatures ahead. That's one reason that the forecasts are for extreme wind speeds once we get into the Monday time frame, as you see here on the cone, up to 140 miles per hour. So steady strengthening through here. The question is it rapid strengthening? Well, rapid strengthening has a particular definition, 35 miles an hour in 24 hours, but that's kind of a random definition that was determined for statistical reasons way back by the researchers at Colorado State University. So there's no natural reason that that's the definition exactly. But anyway, it's the one we use. So this is going to be steady, significant intensification up now to a Category 4. There are some very, very credible models, by the way, that push Category 5 in this area here. I mean, good thing this is offshore and going to stay offshore as it heads to the north between the Carolinas and Bermuda. Close up on the islands, still just a tropical storm watch for the islands here. Hurricane Center noting tropical storm force gusts possible on Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands. What you see is the storm is going to be kind of lifting north by the time it gets to Puerto Rico. So far, they haven't put up a tropical storm watch. Here you can see where we talk about the percentage chance of tropical storm force winds. And you can see here St. Martin, Anguilla, and the northeastern Caribbean islands closer to those yellows. The yellows kind of offshore of Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands. So they don't have a tropical storm watch for them. And this is going to be a glancing blow. You'll know there's a big storm out there, but a glancing blow. The main thing, I think, is it's going to be on the tail. If you see the shape of the storm that's forecast, this is the way the winds are shaped. So it's going to come in from the south, and so that's going to pile the moisture up on the southern side of the mountains of Puerto Rico. So south and eastern Puerto Rico for most of this. Could be mudslides, could be flash flooding over all these islands, especially with higher elevations. So just be aware of that. It's going to happen over the weekend. Starting tonight in the northeast and then slowly moving across the islands as we go through the weekend. Then we get up to this time as it's past the Bahamas. And yes, in the Bahamas, there will be some effect. And the question is, how confident are we that this is indeed going to miss the east coast of the U.S. and Bermuda? So what we've done here, we've taken all these are called ensembles, but they're the possibilities that are presented by the European and the GFS model. So that's all those L's. And then we've added to that the AI models. We're watching the Google AI is in blue. The green AI is the European AI model called AIFS. So that's where they are. We're now looking Tuesday morning. And notice that all of them, or I shouldn't say all of them, most of them are in that same circle there where the cone shows. The center will be somewhere in there. We do have some stragglers over here, but this is a very low odds outlier, as we'll call them at this point. Okay, forward in time we go. Here we go to Wednesday, and we see, of course, they spread out, but of course the cone spreads out. So still, most of them in here, and the ones that really spread out and are really significantly different, increase the odds of a threat to Bermuda. If it's going to err in some direction, we're thinking erring to the right. All right, then moving ahead, and you see that everything kind of bends out offshore. So obviously Bermuda is our concern. We don't really have any concern here for any storm running over the East Coast. But if they come on these western group here, that's going to put larger waves and some fringe effects, at least in eastern North Carolina. All right, let's talk about those larger waves and the timing on that. Here we are Tuesday morning, and what we're using here is a wave forecast. So look over here in this white area is waves way up here in the 24 to 36 foot range. So we're not getting those on the land because that's on the right side. Remember, the right side is the stronger side of the storm. But that energy spreads out in the ocean. So where does it spread out? So we're using the wave forecast. It's kind of a proxy for what you're going to get at the coast. This is not predicting the height of the crashing waves on the coast. It's predicting the energy coming toward the coast. So Tuesday morning, we have moderate energy from north of the Bahamas, so that's Palm Beach County, Florida, on up to Cape Hatteras. That's beginning Tuesday morning. Now let's go forward in time here. Here we are Wednesday morning, and here you see more energy here on the southeast coast. And you can see it pushing to the north. Okay, now we go to Thursday morning, and this is when we get the most energy focused here from Cape Hatteras on up through Delmarva, Jersey Shore, Long Island, New York, and into southern New England. Notice we get the whites closer to the coast. That just means more energy pushing in there. High tide Thursday morning, if all this works out just like this, could be a problem along here. Higher tides, very strong waves, eroding waves, dangerous conditions along the coast. We'll see if exactly how this works out, but this is the thinking as of this moment. And then Friday, it all starts to move away, and things should recede by late Thursday, actually, and then definitely by Friday. All right, let me just mention this thing here. Hurricane hunters have been out there, and they have found winds from the southwest over here and from the northwest up here. Whether there's a defined circulation, you can kind of make it out on the radar. It's a maybe, but it's just about to come ashore. So the big issue here is heavy rain, especially in extreme South Texas, Cameron County, southern Hidalgo County there, and then all along the coastal plain in Texas, going to be significant rainfall, but especially focusing on the Rio Grande Valley, where they actually can use some rain. So this hopefully it won't all come at once, but some flash flooding is possible there. All right, guys. the news is good, even though there's still a lot to talk about and a lot to show. And we'll see about next week. I mean, this could really be significant on the East Coast in terms of what happens right on the coast because of all that energy that the storm puts in the water.
And I guess that was going to be my question, Brian, regarding how when we initially saw that first forecast with 115 mile per hour Category 3 hurricane, it's a major one, but now with the possible peak intensity being 140 miles an hour, that does change how the ocean responds to this storm, right? Because there's more energy associated.
Absolutely. I mean, but the question is really how big it is. You know, as we've seen many times, the size of the storm has more to do with how much energy gets put in the water than the wind speed. I mean, the prime example of that was Hurricane Charlie and Hurricane Ian. They were both the same intense storms, but Ian generated tremendously more storm surge. So that's the issue. It's going to be how it grows in size. It's going to grow in size, but the growth in size will happen after the peak. So how big will it be when it's the 140 mile an hour storm? That's going to be a controlling factor on how much storm surge we get.
Yeah, and I was trying to put into perspective, Brian, and apologies if you noted it because I was reading some of the discussions, but the distance between, Cape Hatteras, North Carolina to Bermuda is over 600 miles. So when you try to figure out where the center would be, so it looks like with the forecast cone as of now, even with the center its closest, we could still potentially be, worst case scenario from Cape Hatteras, maybe just a couple of 100 miles away from the seaboard.
Right. That's why we have very, very high confidence that the center of the storm and the worst winds are going to be well offshore. Because remember, the strongest winds are going to be on the right side of the center as it's moving forward, and that would even be further offshore. So there's very, very high confidence of that. The issue is the amount of energy, because you have very vulnerable places. Cape Hatteras is an extremely vulnerable place. How many times have we seen Highway 12 washed out there near Rodanthe and other issues along there, homes that have been lost and so forth. And so it's a vulnerable place, but there are lots of vulnerable places along the coast to very high winds and eroding currents and waves. And I'm afraid we're going to see that on a large stretch of the coast to one degree or the other.
Yeah, and I just can't get over that intensity now to see these maximum sustained winds ticked up to 140 miles an hour. We'll see if there's room for potential increase, but let's keep that track away from land. That's what we'll take. All right, Fox Weather Hurricane Specialist Bryan Norcross, appreciate your insight this morning. Thank you.